What is going on, everybody, guys? It is Sunday, week 3. We got a full NFL slate here, and we're doing our player props. One from each game, like we always do. Going Browns Packers to lead it off. I got Njoku over 38.5 receiving yards. The Packers are the 27th ranked team for yards given up to tight ends. So, specifically to tight ends, they are one of the worst. Browns probably playing from behind here, so Flacco will be throwing, getting a lot of attempts. He's definitely been trusting his tight ends this year. And then Njoku hit this in his last game, and Flacco has targeted him 5 times in the last 2 games, or 5 times in each of the last 2 games. And he has targeted his tight ends in general over 25 times so far this year. So I definitely expect him to come out, keep targeting tight ends, Njoku to have a couple targets, catches, turn those into receiving yards here against a team who's struggling to defend tight ends right now. Next up, we got the Jets versus the Buccaneers. And I'm going Garrett Wilson over 64.5 receiving yards. Wilson's averaging 73 yards per game so far this season. And this Bucs secondary isn't the strength of their defense. They are certainly a running defense. And so I expect, Tyrod Taylor to step in and he's going to have to throw the ball. I don't think Breece Hall is going to have as much success this game. Plus, Tyrod Taylor, not Justin Fields. Whenever a backup quarterback is in or is coming in off injury and not, it's a typical starter, we do see a surplus of targets to the wide receiver one for the first couple of weeks while they get settled in. Now, granted, Tyrod Taylor's probably only in for this week, maybe next week, depending on the severity of the concussion. But you can expect Garrett Wilson's targets to increase and for him to get a couple more receptions due to that. Plus, Jets are not going to have, against the Bucs here, they're not going to have success running. The Bucs are a top 5 run defense right now, and Breece Hall, struggled a little bit week 1, didn't do great against the Bills, so I don't think he's going to have even more success against a top run defense here. So taking Garrett Wilson over 64.5 receiving yards. Next up, we got the Rams versus Eagles. We're going A.J. Brown over 63.5 receiving yards. The Rams are a very good offense. They have the dual threat, the wide receivers. They got, pretty good running backs there. They're pretty all around. They're a playoff contending team. They are a good put together team. And I can expect Stafford to hit his receivers this game and target, this weak Eagles secondary that we've been seeing. And then with that said, the Eagles are going to want to stay in this, and we're going to turn to Jalen Hurts, who has been definitely hearing the talks, the tweets, the mentions. Can't throw the ball. 101 yards against the Chiefs in the air. Well, what's going on there? You're not going to be able to win Super Bowls. Not going to be able to be a playoff contender unless your quarterback can throw the ball. I think he's heard this. I think he's going to have to throw the ball this game. And the Rams defense have allowed on average 126 yards through the air to receivers specifically. So I can definitely see 65 of those going to A.J. Brown. Falcons versus Panthers. Taking Bijan over 82.5 rush yards. The Falcons, I expect to be playing with a lead here. I think they, destroy the Panthers quick. And I think Bijan runs all over them. He's averaging more than this so far this year. He's gotten, he's touched 100 last game, had over 100 the game before of receiving and rushing. I don't see him having any problem running through this Panthers defense. And the Panthers defense has allowed over 220 rushing yards to running backs so far this year. So I don't expect them to be able to contain Bijan. I expect a lot of rushing yards here, over 82.5. I'm expecting him to hit 100. Probably throw, half a unit on 100 plus. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Next, we got the Colts versus Titans. And I'm picking Tony Pollard to go under 86.5 rushing and receiving yards. Cam Ward has not been throwing to Tony Pollard as a receiving back. Last couple of years, he's been getting receptions. So far this year, he has 1 reception. So he's just not being utilized as a receiving back. And the numbers here, I'm basically bumping up to 86.5, banking on it just being rushing yards. Like I said, 1 reception so far this year. Even if he gets 1 this game, I don't think he's going to be pushing this over the edge. He gets 6 yards on a check down or something. He still needs to come up with 80 on the ground against this Colts defense, which has only given up 32 yards receiving to running backs this year. And most of those were to Devon Achane, who is a receiving back for Miami. And on the flip side, the Colts giving up 70 rushing yards allowed to running backs. And the Titans expecting to be playing from behind here against a pretty hot Colts team right now. They're going to have to throw the ball quick. Cam Ward is going to have to scramble and hit some targets downfield. And like I said, that's one of those options is not being Tony Pollard because that's just not how he's using it. Tony's going to get all these yards either rushing or he's not going to get these yards. So I'm taking him under 86.5 rushing and receiving. Next up, we got the Raiders and the Commanders. This is an interesting game. They both have, struggled late. Raiders look better than people had thought, and then Geno Smith threw 4 interceptions, threw a game away last week. Happens, and then the Commanders have certainly been struggling. Jaden Daniels hasn't been putting up the numbers he's used to, but we don't have Jaden Daniels here. I'm taking McLaurin over 49.5 receiving yards, and like I said before with Tyrod Taylor, same thing. We got Marcus Mariota in the game. When your backup's in, your wide receiver one gets more targets. 50 yards from McLaurin's, that's nothing. He's hit that plenty of times in his career. And the Raiders have averaged 200 yards to receivers specifically this year. So average that. So definitely their secondary has allowed plenty of yards through the air. And then we're just looking at McLaurin to be Mariota's number one option. Obviously he's been going to Debo quite a bit, but Mariota doesn't have that same connection to Debo that Daniels has had. I think Mariota's going to understand how good McLaurin is, and when he's in a jam, that's his guy he's going to throw to. We got Patriots versus Steelers, and we're going Ramondre Stevenson over 41.5 rushing yards. Steelers are one of the worst ranked run defenses so far this year. They've given up over 123 yards in each of their first 2 games. And then Stevenson, the main back of the New England here, they certainly will get attempts. He's certainly going to hold up, be that workhorse. He does have Henderson, which I did flirt with the going Henderson over yards just because it is so low. But Henderson's kind of been their check down receiving back. Stevenson's been their running back. So I expect him to get the touches, get him to get the rush yards here. And then this is going to be a pretty close game. I think even Patriots have a solid chance of coming away with a win. But with it being a close game, going to be plenty of opportunity to run the ball even late into the game. So I expect Stevenson to definitely get his attempts, and with those attempts to get the yards. Next up, we got the backup bowl. We got the Bengals versus the Vikings. Same philosophy as before. Jefferson over 75.5. Jay Jettis. Backup quarterbacks are in. I don't mind Chase here either, but it kind of comes down to who you trust more, Jake Browning or Carson Wentz. And we've seen Wentz before. Wentz can be a starter. He has been a starter. So I'm going to take Wentz in this situation. We're going to see the surplus of targets to Justin Jefferson, but I expect Wentz to be able to connect a little bit better than Browning could to Chase. More up, the Bengals defense has allowed 170 receiving yards to receivers a game. So certainly not having a strong secondary there. Plenty of opportunity to get Justin Jefferson 75 yards of that 170, especially when he's going to be your main target. You got Jordan Mason in now, be able to kind of run the ball a little bit, but apart from Jefferson, that's not really many other options that Wentz is going to have. So I think he sticks to his number one guy and just keeps feeding him. Next up, we got the Texans versus the Jaguars. Doing a little plus play here is my best bet. CJ Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. This really comes down to the Texans mentality here. They need to get this season, they'd like to get it turned around early, not starting out the way they wanted. And the Jags defense has actually let up 2 passing touchdowns in each of the first 2 games. I think the Texans are trying to come out here, get things headed in the right direction, and that starts with CJ Stroud connecting with a couple people, getting in the end zone. 2 passing touchdowns for him is certainly in his wheelhouse, and the Jags have been letting this up. So I think that's going to be an easy one for him. And then, so just taking a little plus play right now, DraftKings plus 140. So Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Really just comes down to they need to win, and the Jags haven't been defending it well. Heading over to the Saints versus Seahawks game. I'm actually going Rattler, Spencer Rattler, to over 203.5 passing yards. He's averaged more than this so far this year. The Seahawks defense has allowed 250 yards through the air in average for the first 2 weeks. Rattler's actually looked better than people are giving him credit for. He's still connecting with Juwan Johnson, still connecting with Olave. Those are two guys who can certainly put up some yards for you. And I think he can get over 205 passing yards easily in this one. And then I do think it'll be closer than the sportsbooks are projecting. They're giving him over a touchdown to the Saints. But they will be playing from behind likely, so Rattler will have to throw. He will be making those attempts late in the game. He's attempting to chuck 40 times a game so far, averaged out to the first 2 weeks. I think he's going to get 205 passing yards here. Another good game to watch. We got the Broncos versus the Chargers. I'm taking Omarion Hampton's over 11.5 rush attempts. The Chargers will likely be playing with a lead here, even into the fourth quarter, and they expect Hampton, use him, slow the clock down, slow the game down, burn it out. And he's actually averaged 11 and 12. And that's what he's got in the first 2 weeks. So I expect him, be right around there this game. Hopefully they're playing with a good lead. They can run the clock out a little bit more, give him a couple more attempts towards the end of the game. And then the Broncos defense has allowed over 100 yards with over 20 attempts in both of the first 2 games. 20 attempts, Omarion Hampton's your go-to guy. So you're definitely looking at him. This can be a run-heavy game. Broncos defense has, struggled a little bit with the run defense. Making Omarion Hampton 11.5 rush attempts, hitting the over there. Next up, we got a Cowboys versus the Bears, and I'm taking DJ Moore over 52.5 receiving yards. This is a game that I think Vegas, isn't hitting all the key points here. They got the Cowboys is I think only a 1.5 or 2.5 point favorite. I think they're gonna blow the Bears out here, and I think the Bears will likely have to pass to stay in it because they'll be playing from behind. So who are you going to go to? Your number one guy. The Cowboys we've seen struggle with the passing game. Granted, they played pretty good against the Eagles, but again, that wasn't the Eagles' scheme. They haven't been passing, so they weren't looking to pass. But Russell Wilson put up 400 yards in the air against this Cowboys defense. Neighbors and Robinson both got 100 yards, and I think DJ Moore is right up there with Neighbors as far as talent. So I think he can certainly get 53 yards in this game. And Moore, he is the wide receiver one. Odunze has been, getting a couple looks, getting quite a few yards. But when it comes down to it, we looked last year, by the end of the season this year, DJ Moore will be their wide receiver one. So I expect him to start getting those, the focus of the targets and the shares here. Over 52.5 receiving yards for DJ Moore. Last of the mid-game slate, we got the Niners versus the Cardinals. And I'm actually taking Trey McBride to go under his 60.5 receiving yards. The 49ers have only given up 28 yards to tight end so far. And the Cardinals likely keeping this game close, going to be able to run, going to be able to use James Conner. They do have Marvin Harrison as another receiving option. And McBride is, averaging right around this per game. So he's hit this over once and he's been under this once. So I think on a team that's been pretty solid against tight ends, probably leaning a little bit on the under here. And then 49ers, pretty good pass defense all around. So you do expect, Connor to be a big part of their defense, doing some Kyler Murray scrambles here and there. I don't foresee him being able to pass and sit in the pocket like he does when he does have to connect with these receivers. So McBride under 60.5 receiving yards. Lastly, primetime Chiefs versus Giants. I'm taking Travis Swift to go over 47.5 receiving yards. Or Kelsey, I guess he hasn't changed his name yet. So Travis Kelsey, over 47.5 receiving yards. This is the only real receiving threat for the Chiefs. You got Hollywood Brown as your wide receiver one. This is Mahomes' go-to guy. That's who's going to be getting the shares. That's who Mahomes is going to lean on here. And I guarantee Kelsey was talking to him throughout this week after that big goal line drop that basically cost him the game. I think he's going to be requesting the ball here. I could see a 100-yard game out of him. We don't see it too often, but I think this is, they're angry about going 0-2. They're on a 3-game losing streak for the first time in their career. Kelsey dropped the ball right as that would have been an easy touchdown. I think all of that's going to lead to him getting quite a few targets, quite a few yards. No other real big wide receiver threats. This is a game made out for Travis Kelsey to hit over 47.5 receiving yards. That's all the picks, all player props. Let me know which ones you guys are tailing, and I'll see you next time.